As the Ukraine war reached another year and the owners of Facebook and X have vowed to box, Africa had its own year, which may not have been as eventful as the previous years, but still had some victories. Anyways, here is the 2023 of Africa. Like, subscribe, and share please to help us. Thanks and enjoy. As the climate of the world changes, it affected all continents, but its impact on Africa could have been the worst. Cyclone Freddy, the longest-lasting and highest cyclone, traversed the South Indian Ocean, affecting Madagascar, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Malawi, South Africa, Eswatini, and Zambia, but mainly decimated Malawi, killing over 1,000 people. Up in the Mediterranean, Storm Daniel, known as the deadliest cyclone in its geographical history, hit Libya and caused the destruction of a dam, which resulted in serious flooding, killing over 4,000 people and displacing 30,000. In the aftermath, the northwestern region of Libya was rendered a disaster zone. There were also the Great Lakes floods that affected Rwanda, Uganda, and the DRC. Keeping on the subject of nature, a 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck western Morocco, killing at least 2,960 and injuring over 5,000 people, while damaging historical buildings. The earthquake was also felt in some parts of Europe and neighboring Algeria. As these forces of nature were hard to control, the people still had a say in who they wanted to lead their countries. When it came to the power of the people, there were a slew of presidential elections on the continent, like Nigeria, Gabon, Sierra Leone, Madagascar, Zimbabwe, Egypt, the DRC, and Liberia. Of all elections, only Nigeria and Liberia had new representatives as presidents. Even though some of them were contested and considered corrupt, some results caused reactions, opening the door for coups on the continent. Following the announcement of incumbent President Ali Bongo Ondimba's re-election as president of Gabon, the military launched a successful coup d'etat, creating the Committee of the Transition and Restoration of Institutions to govern the country, ending the rule of the Bongo family after 56 years in power. Then the president of Niger was toppled in a coup d'etat after members of the Presidential Guard and the armed forces seized control of the country, installing a military leader in its place. In Sudan, fight broke out between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces. Then in Sierra Leone, more than a dozen people were arrested for attempting to launch a failed coup against the president. These situations eventually caught the eye and ire of foreign nations, which could have strained some relationships between countries. When it came to the international relationships, Africa was busy. Governments increasingly dropped visa requirements for travelers from other African countries, which for businesses would boost trade and generate more revenue. Mozambique waived visas for 29 countries. Rwanda abolished visas for all Africans, while Kenya and South Africa signed visa waivers between each other. With countries from other continents, Burkina Faso resumed diplomatic relations with North Korea for the first time after 6 years, while Israel and Sudan normalized relations between the two countries. Not all relationships were bliss though, as France fell out with African countries like Burkina Faso and Niger, who requested France to suspend military presence in their countries. Because of its close proximity to the Gaza Strip, Egypt kept close watch for most of the second half of the year over the Israeli-Hamas war. President El-Sisi refused to admit Palestinian refugees into the country, which sparked nationwide protests. Then some Egyptian soldiers were injured from the spill of the current conflict, just by being close to the border. Then later in the year, the Egyptian Foreign Ministry criticized the Israeli government for disregarding human lives in the Gaza Strip. Other African nations took sides in the current conflict. However, it did not affect the Continental Union. The African Union was very busy in 2023. It started the year by backing a peace agreement between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front. Then in the month of February, it also sought to improve the Libyan crisis. Then towards the end of the year, the organization was invited permanently to have a seat at the G20 summit. The organization has grown smaller after suspending Niger and Gabon after the coups taking place in the countries. It also selected a new chairperson, something that happens annually. Afrobeat continues to win the hearts of music lovers on the earth and looks to keep its momentum this year, as Burna Boy was the first African to perform at the UEFA Champions League. However, Thames had the year to remember, as she was nominated across award shows and won a slew of awards with her song with Drake, Wait For You, including a Grammy. Amapiano was also a force in 2023. Uncle Waffles made history performing at Coachella, and Tyler flooded social media with her Billboard ranking song, Water, which had many women participating in a challenge on social media. We were also saddened to hear the death of AKA from South Africa and Mohbad from Nigeria. That one is a controversial one. The world of sports was great for Africa. Morocco won a bid with Spain and Portugal to host the 2030 FIFA World Cup, a first spanning over 3 continents. Victor Osimhen won the African Footballer of the Year award, even though he was embarrassed by his current club via TikTok. South Africa, on the other hand, were crowned World Rugby Champions, a record 4th time. This feat also earned a national holiday in the country. In the realm of combat sports, Francis Ngannou left the UFC at the beginning of the year, vacating his heavyweight title in favor of free agency. He ended up fighting the WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. Even though he lost by a split decision, he was able to knock the champion down in the third round. Those were the big moments of 2023, even though the usual stories persisted like the COVID fallout, the economy of countries, and cultural issues. With all this happening in 2023, what can we expect in 2024? Thanks for watching. Will we see you in the next one? And have a happy new year.